Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the birds and the bees, and the flowers and the trees. No, actually we're not going to be talking about the trees, or the flowers, or the birds, but the bees. We're definitely talking about bees. And now that I'm thinking about it, we might actually cover the flowers and the trees too. Anyway, beyond that point, bees are magic beings. They're so fantastic. And as long as there has been pop culture, bees and pop culture go together like bees and pop culture. So that means forever. So when I say bees, you might be tempted to think of some things like Bumblebee and Transformers. Or you might not know this, but if you're a Harry Potter fan, you certainly should. And Dumbledore means Bumblebee. So he is the head of, he's a bee, he's the bee. Now, it also comes about in phrases too, like, what's the buzz? Or, well, this will give you a buzz, or that's the bee's knees. I like that one. The bee's knees is from the 1920s, and it was a keen way of saying that was really great. So if it was the bee's knees, it's really great. And you know what would be the bee's knees? If you would like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to be among the first to receive updates on videos like this and many others. So I briefly sort of talked about how bees and magic go together. But really, if you look at it on one principle, you go, okay, yeah, they're magical beings. They make honey, but they do so much more than that. Bees have been adopted as a symbol in the Freemasons, the French Republicans, the Gnostics. There's so many occult and Gnostic groups who have taken on the symbol of the bee, and even witches. Why is that? Well, if you look at the way that they work together for the good of the community, well, that's a great way of thinking about it. But there's more than that. So when bees are building their hives, their cells all are hexagon shaped. And mathematically, it looks like it could not possibly be organic. It looks like it must have been constructed by some human artist. And yet, it is perfectly natural. Speaking of the way that they build their cells, that is considered a hexagon. And hexes are what witches are known for. So many witches will refer to their covens as a hive. And what's really great is that witches are typically women, though there may be a few males. And that links directly to the bee, because most of the bees that you see are female. There are only a couple of the male bees that mate with the queen to keep the hive going, but all of those lovely ladies you see on all of those flowers, those are female bees. It talks about how powerful the female form actually is. In fact, many witches will worship the goddess. They refer to their deity as the goddess, which is Mother Nature. It is the mother form. And the queen bee, from the perspective of the bees, is the goddess. Since the female bee, the goddess, the queen bee, will live longer than all of the other bees in the hive, that bee has been there and she will be there. That's just the way that it happens. It is a symbol of Mother Nature, of mother, of nurturing. In ancient times, it was a tradition to keep bees and to invite them to weddings and funerals because they were your family. They were the spirits of your ancestors. And if they didn't show up for whatever reason, you would leave them little treats and little snacks outside of their hive as a way of saying thank you. And also, it is customary to tell the bees. So you would go to the bee and you would tell them of births and deaths, and you would inform them of weddings and even of guests who would arrive. And it was considered in good taste to inform the bee, especially if it was connected to them, like the beekeeper. If the beekeeper had died, you would want to go and whisper to the bees so that they wouldn't get sad and go away and maybe die themselves, but they would continue to produce the fruit. And that's such a wonderful thing. The honey is such a magical thing. You don't even know how wonderful and magical honey can be. You can use it in so many things, in drinks and in your foods. And I use it in baths. I use it in my magical witch's brew, my tea. People come to my house and they go, "This is the best tea I've ever had in my life. What is your secret?" And I go, "Well, I put honey in my water, which has been boiled with tea leaves, and then I put milk in it, and that's what I do." And they go, but it's so good. And I go, "You're welcome." Also, I bathe in honey. I will put about a tablespoon in my bath water along with some milk and some sea salt because, again, it is that sweetness. It's such a wonderful thing. But, people have oftentimes dreamt of bees. And it's said that if you dream of bees, it is actually going to bring about good omens for you. It is going to bring so many wonderful things to the table. Now, I had a dream. It was right before the killer hornet, murder hornet thing was a craze. And in this, there was a hornet that was chasing a lady bee. And I wanted so badly to protect this bee. So I took my phone and I smacked the hornet. And then bee, she went off and landed on my shoulder, and it was a very happy bee, a very happy moment. But bees are so special because they are a symbol of pollination. It's not just about wax and honey. That's not. In fact, that is an injustice to bees to think that that's all they do. Bees pollinate and bring foods to the table that would otherwise have died out a long time ago. Bees help all of the animals on earth. They work together as a hive to preserve the unity, to preserve balance. And that is essential. If you ever see a bee, some of you may be afraid. I know bee stings can kill some people. And so people get afraid of bees. That really brings in that Mars energy, that fire strike. But on the positive, if you have arthritis, my grandfather used to go out, he kept bees, and he would go out and he would allow those bees to sting him on his hands. And my mother would go, "Well, Grandpa," she'd say, "doesn't that hurt?" And he'd say, "Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good." He would allow the bee because it would bring that fire energy, which would bring the blood, and it would bring that flow back. It would bring the balance back so that the pain was no longer there. When I was a kid, there was a church way out in the country, and I don't even remember what it was called, but I loved to go to this church because up in the belfry was a beehive, and I used to refer to it as the Honeybee Church. I don't remember anything else. I just love to go to the Honeybee Church because I love to go up and I love to see them doing their work and working as a whole and pollinating the flowers and the plants. That to me was one of my most pleasant memories. And now, here's a word from my friend the devil and Asmodeus.
Asmodeus. Beelzebub? Where's Asmodeus?
Oh, he's buzzing around.
Well, I guess we'll have to go with Plan B. Back to you in the studio.
So, Asmodeus and I were just having a little chat. And Asmodeus and I were saying how that you should join us on the podcast at The Gentleman's Psychic, and you should find us on Patreon under The Gentleman's House, and you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Oh, you're already on YouTube. We already covered that joke before. But thank you so much, and it's viewers like you who keep channels like this going. I appreciate you so much. As always, I have been your host, Richard-Lael Lillard, the Gentleman Psychic. Until next time, wave goodbye, Asmodeus. Oh, see, he's so ticklish. What a good boy. I love my friend.